Hello, and welcome to Abduction, Victim to Survivor. I am so very honored to have Linnea, my dear friend. We've known each other for 20 something years, here to tell her story. And I imported her all the way from Vienna. Linnea is visiting with her son Gabe, and it's just so wonderful to have her here. And Abby's here with us. And Linnea and I met so I just got to meet your dad, who you were abducted from. I got to meet him in person a couple of days ago.
Mhm.
We had a wonderful lunch together. It was very powerful to hear his story and meet him in person.
Mhm.
And it's his wife, your stepmom, Faith, who saw a story about me in a magazine or somewhere
Mhm.
and told you, hey,
Yeah.
right? What did she tell you?
So my stepmom Faith read an interview, I believe it was,
Maybe.
with you in a magazine, and she said, "Wow, this story sounds quite familiar. There's a lot of parallels." So she put the two of us together, so we got in touch with each other, and so it's thanks to my stepmom.
That's amazing. And then a short time after that, right? You think it was just a few months later,
Yeah.
we had a meeting at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They put together a meeting for us who had experienced abduction, for the kids who had experienced abduction as children, adults who had experienced abduction, family abduction as children. And so we got to meet there in person.
Mhm.
And then you moved to New York, and my now husband and I had dinner with you, and we've traveled together in Slovenia in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
So, and we meet just about once a month, once every 6 weeks, on an online sort of support group that we created. And so we talk just about every month, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So it's
Mhm.
so really so special that Linnea is our joint first guest. So without further ado, I give you the microphone, literally.
Okay. Hi. So I'll give you guys a bit of a brief version of my story, and then see if there's any follow-up questions after that. So I was born on Long Island, one of three children. My parents got divorced when I was about 8, and unfortunately, they were not so good at talking to each other about what was going on in their emotional reactions to what was going on. I believe if they had just talked to each other, so much could have been avoided. So much pain could have been avoided.
Mm.
Um, so my mom tried to salvage the marriage by going to marriage counseling in a group setting. So there were several other couples. And unfortunately, my dad fell in love with one of the other women who was taking part of
That's
this.
Faith.
That's Faith, yes. She was also trying to salvage her marriage.
Right.
Yeah. So they hit it off. That was not very fun for my mom because she was trying to salvage the marriage. And the way I pieced it together, from different stories and the few memories that I have from back then, it seems to me that my mom, kind of out of revenge, very quickly entered a new relationship with a man from Turkey. Was very charismatic, very intellectual, um, but did not have any parenting skills whatsoever, unfortunately. He was had a real forceful energy, very powerful energy, and also culture clashes with the American culture, American parenting styles and things. And this is back in the 80s. Both my parents were kind of hippies, kind of let the kids do whatever they feel like doing, that kind of attitude to parenting. And when my Turkish stepfather came into the scene, he had a complete different um, take on child rearing. Very disciplined. Yeah, so it was a culture shock for us, and there were a lot of sparks flying between my Turkish stepdad and my American dad. By the way, both my parents are from a Scandinavian background. So what happened was that things escalated between my American dad and my Turkish stepfather, and sometimes the police were involved. My dad sometimes would bring us back late. There were visitation. We had weekends with our dad. He would bring us back late. Um, and my mom would call the police, and it just got kind of scary. And my mom decided, okay, things are really tense here. It's and there might have been some arguments between my mom and my dad. One of them threatening, I'll take the kids away. You'll never see them again. So my mom's version is that she felt forced to take us away, to jump our dad, jump the gun and do it before he could do it.
Right.
Um, so she was thinking, okay, where might we go? My new husband is from Turkey. Let's go to Turkey. And for us kids, we were told that we're going on vacation, but you don't go on vacation and get a dumpster in front of your house and start throwing furniture into the dumpster. Um, Anyway, we as kids, we did what we were told, or what else could we do really? So kind of overnight, got passports, and we're on a plane towards Turkey, and leaving everything behind, all our friends, our home, our language, our culture, our school, our relatives. I had a very close relationship to my grandmother on my maternal side. That relationship was just, ripped away from me. Um, and we ended up in Turkey, kind of in hiding. Our names got changed so that it would be harder for our dad to find us. Um, Ended up staying there for 3 years, moving around a bit when we were in Turkey. Our dad did find us, back then, uh, three kids with Scandinavian background. We have very bright blonde hair. We quite stood out amongst the Turkish kids in the schoolyard. So even with the names changed, our dad was able to find us, and he had decided he was not going to try and re-abduct us back, but try to go the lawful way, go to court, kind of try to get visitation rights and things like that. And um, he did what he could. He tried to stay in touch with us. Um, so after 3 years, things escalated within the courts, and other things happened with my stepdad, and so my mom and stepdad decided, okay, we got to get out of Turkey. And there was the question whether we should go to Cuba or to Sweden. And they decided, okay, let's go to Sweden, because there were some remote relatives still in Sweden. They might be able to help us. So we ended up in Sweden, and this was 1989. I was 12 at the time. Again, had our names changed, uh, and we my mom and stepdad claimed that we were political refugees. So we were living in a refugee camp in Sweden. Refugee camp sounds very extreme, but I have to say, in Sweden, it was very, very civilized, very nice refugee camps. The first one, a temporary one, was kind of like a big dorm with bunk beds. And then we got a permanent apartment within a complex where other refugee families were living. And after about a year, we got permanent residency and started going to school and things like that. By this time, all three of us kids had been totally brainwashed by our mom and stepdad to believe that our dad was a monster, that he was a violent person, um, and we were also told we're not allowed to tell anybody about our background because our mom would end up in jail. Many years later, I found out that is not the case. You know, if we had come back to the States, she would not have been put into jail. There might have been some court proceedings,
Mhm.
maybe some penalty things, but she would not have been thrown into prison. However, when you're a kid, you believe these
Mhm.
things. So we were just petrified, and did not tell anybody about our background, and we pretended that our Turkish stepdad was our biological father.
Mm.
Um, and around this time, also they had two more children, so it's about a decade between us in age,
Mm.
younger brother and sister, and they were not told anything of this at all, nothing. So there was this culture of silence. We weren't allowed to ask about our dad. We weren't allowed to ask, what was going on? What's the plan? What are we doing? Or can we go home again? All of this. And it wasn't until I was in my late teens, the very first time I told my best friend in Sweden my story. Up until then, I thought that this is normal
Mhm.
because I had nothing to compare with. I figured, okay, all kids would probably go through something like this because I didn't tell anybody about it. I just assumed it was normal.
Mm.
And so my best friend reacted with shock when I told her this story. And I told her, "You can't tell anybody. Please don't tell the police.
Mhm.
It's secret." And I felt so bad too after I told her. I betrayed the family secret.
Mm.
Um, but her reaction was that with this shock and like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. And your dad is still looking for you. He hasn't given up.
Mm.
Wow." And to hear that reaction, like, "Oh, maybe my dad is a good guy, because he hasn't given up on us and he's still searching for us and still going to the courts and trying to get visitation rights. So maybe he's not all bad." So that for me was a real eye opener. And that was like, I guess, the beginning of changing my opinion about my dad. Up until that point, and if I would see a photo of him, I had a gut reaction of fear because that was what I was trained to do. Later on, when I had my own children, and to realize the pain that my dad must have gone through, indescribable, indescribable. Yeah. So anyway, my dad went through the Swedish court system after he located us there, tried to get visitation rights, tried to get a social worker to talk to us, see if we could, visit together with a social worker. And we were just categorically saying, no, 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 no. We'd been kind of brainwashed by our mom and stepdad. Okay, when the social worker asks you this, answer this. If they ask you that, answer that. So we were completely brainwashed. We were given like a script
Mhm.
to stick by.
Mhm.
Um, and over the years, my dad and also his mother would send us birthday cards and Christmas cards, and our mom would just take them and throw them straight in the garbage. We never knew that we got anything. And as we each turned 18, our mom finally said, "Okay, here's a birthday card from your dad or from your grandma." For us, that was like, okay, now we have a postal address for our left behind family. We got in touch with our grandma first, our
Mm.
paternal grandma, and she flew over to Sweden to meet us for the first time, and that was the beginning of getting back into touch. And in the following months or year, we also um, got to meet our dad again. And it was something like 13, 14 years that we hadn't seen him. So it was pretty monumentous.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of getting to know each other again because there was, a long time that we hadn't seen each other. And we children in the meanwhile had become adults. So he also, had lost three children. He got three adults back and to get to know them again. And so it was a bit difficult in the beginning to try to find our way back to each other and to kind of like recognize each other again.
Mm.
So what really worked for me was when I had children and to see my children playing with my dad and
Yeah.
see that playful side of him that I remembered from when I was a kid. For me, that just clicked then, like, "Oh, there's my dad.
Mhm.
There, that's him."
Yeah.
So that was very, very healing for me.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Linnea's amazing, and we do share that the long term, the Scandinavian and American link.
Mhm.
It's just uncanny. So many of these um, parts of our stories, we can so deeply
Yeah.
relate to the name changes, the brainwashing, the time that it took to really start to question the reality we
Mhm.
had grown up with.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's really, really very powerful.
Mhm.
And and it's just so wonderful now for me to have seen you together with your dad and your son, his grandchild. And we've talked a lot over the years about that whole process, and it
Mhm.
hasn't been an easy process. Um, do you I'm jumping the gun here a little bit. Do you have any words of wisdom and guidance for other children in your position, and then maybe also for parents in your dad's position and people in your mom's position?
Hmm. This is a very, very emotional process that you go through, and I realized you can't force anybody to feel anything if they're not ready. They're not ready to meet their left behind parent. You can't force it. So, and
Exactly.
there's a lot of guilt there too.
Mhm,
Like I'm not ready. I'm not ready to meet my left behind parent. You feel like a an accomplice in what has been done to them
mhm,
in some ways. There's so many conflicting feelings. Um, but I would suggest, just as a child, an abducted child, be patient with yourself. Um, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. It's not your fault what
mhm,
happened.
mm,
Um, for um, for abducting parents, I know everybody has a story. They have their justification why they did it. Um, but I would suggest, please, just let there be some alternative stories. Let alternative stories also exist. It's everything is not black and white. And please, allow there to be contact with the left behind parent, because a child is comes from two parents, and if the left behind parent is made out to be a monster, the child feels, okay, I'm 50% of that left
mhm.
behind person who's being called these awful things. You incorporate that into yourself and you think, okay, I'm 50% of me is bad.
Yes.
And that is something very, very hard to live with.
That's a
So,
great point because we do get our self-esteem and self-efficacy from our parents, from both of our parents. And if there's conflict between them and one or both are telling the child how bad the other parent is, it is, you do take that on yourself as, oh, if my parent is bad and I'm from that parent, then I must be bad too. So it's yeah. Yeah, I would suggest too if anyone is contemplating taking their child, think about, what we've shared, what Linnea has shared, what Sarah has shared, what I've shared about my son, and think about them. They're not an extension of you. They're individuals with the right to be in their lives. So, if we could reach even one person who's contemplating this and they realize, wait, this isn't the right thing to do, that would be wonderful. But your story does mirror Sarah's a great deal, that you had siblings with you. I wonder if that made a difference for you, if that was helpful to have
yeah.
your siblings.
Yeah, yeah, it was for me, I think that helped save my mental uh sanity, because especially because of the silence culture that I was plunged into. Um and I've heard a definition of the word trauma. A word The word trauma, in some people define it that you didn't get a chance to talk about what happened afterwards. If you get to talk about what happened to you, work through it with people, then you don't get stuck on it as a trauma. So what happened to us was a trauma because we weren't allowed to talk about it. We had our whole lives ripped away from us. And the context that we were living in was taken from us. We weren't allowed to talk about it. So my younger sister, she's a year and a half younger than me, and we're very very close. Uh, uh, Sometimes almost have like a telepathic understanding. We could finish each other's sentences and things. We were very close during this time too, and that helped me a lot to be able to whisper with her and say, Was Dad really like that? Do you remember him like that? I don't remember him being like that." That just gave us a little bit of an outlet. And um, my brother is 5 years older than me. For him, it was a bit of a different process. He was older when it happened, and he felt responsible for us younger sisters. So that was really tough for him. We actually got interviewed by a journalist some years ago, the three of us children, about the story, and the journalist asked each of us separately, "Which one of you three do you believe has been the worst off from this?" And it was very interesting. Each of us pointed to another one, either the youngest one, if it was hardest for her because she had the fewer memories to hold on to, or I said it was my older brother because he felt that he was more established in his personality. He was about 13, 14 when it happened, and as a male, feeling that sense of responsibility, that he should have taken more responsibility, that he should have done something more, maybe he should have contacted the authorities in Turkey, or try to run away or something that he didn't do. He felt very conflicted there that he didn't protect us more.
Mm.
Um, yeah. Oh, I forgot what the original
Did he point
question
did he
was.
point at you as the one that was most affected?
I think he did. I
Yeah.
think he did.
Mm.
Um, yeah, because of the name changes, and and some other things I can't remember exactly. I just thought it was a funny thing that
Yeah.
each of us three children pointed to another one. She's worse off than me. No, he's worse off.
Well, that shows a lot of empathy. You all had empathy for each other,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it sounds like you really loved and supported each other too. 'Cause I
we did.
imagine going from, your, father's, home and the way he parented as being,
Hmm.
a hippie and giving the children a lot of freedom, and then going, to your mom and her new husband, especially since you were taken out of the country and your father wasn't in the picture anymore. I just wonder, what was it like for you with those different parenting skills because they're so extreme?
They are. However, kids are very flexible,
Right.
and they can tolerate amazing amounts of uh I want to say pain, but emotional changes, I guess. Um and I have to say it wasn't all bad. We did have, fun times in Turkey. We made friends and neighbors,
Mm.
and we had fun in school. Um but
The
the
food is great.
parenting, the
The
food is
food is great,
great.
right?
It was wonderful. The music,
Mhm.
the hospitality of
Mhm.
people, absolutely amazing.
Warmth. Warmth.
A lot of
Mhm.
warmth, yeah. Even my dad, who came to Turkey to look for us, he has many stories of meeting people who were so helpful and supportive. And it's wonderful that he didn't come to vilify the Turkish people, or the country of Turkey. So that's really an amazing achievement. It would be very easy to kind of put all Turks in a bundle and say they're all bad, and uh, and he managed to not do that. That's a pretty big deal.
And I just wanna jump in, that gave you room to have joyfully have the good memories of your 3 years is a long time in the life of a child.
Mhm.
So your 3 years, like you said, they weren't all bad. How could they be? You're in this beautiful place and you're living your life. So and you're meeting friends and getting to know the culture and nature and food and language and
Mhm.
everything. So if your dad came with sort of an expectation that whenever turkey was mentioned, everybody had to be upset or angry,
Yeah.
that wouldn't have given you space and room to have turkey, your experience there,
Yeah.
be part of your life and part of your history. And you
Yeah.
have two siblings who are part Turkish, and
Mhm.
by extension, that makes you a little Turkish too. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful that he gave you that room. That's a lot of
Yeah.
generosity,
Yeah.
and it's the way things should be. I'll put it out that way. Ideally, that's the way they should be. So this way, the kids feel a sense of freedom to allow all parts of themselves to express
Yes.
safely and
Yes.
freely.
Yeah, definitely. That
And
I'm
that helps
allowed.
with your relationship with your dad also, because he's allowing you to be you and to relish in whatever good experiences you had and support you in whatever bad ones you had. So,
Yeah, and that
yeah,
I'm allowed to love Turkey
right.
and Turkish culture, which I'm imagining can this in this context could be quite difficult for a left behind parent to tolerate that. I met my dad yesterday. We went into to New York City with my oldest son, and my dad was like, "Let's go find a Turkish restaurant Let's go for lunch." That's that's the kind of guy he is.
Sounds like a
Um,
very good guy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, but about the child rearing techniques, that was definitely a shock. One one example I could say is finishing your food at meals. When I was younger, it was very kind of go with the flow. If you don't want to eat it, it's fine. And then my Turkish stepfather came from a complete different culture. You must eat up all your food, even if you don't like it. And that was really tough. I remember, secretly trying to throw food in the garbage, uh, and he found out, and he said, "Okay, you're going to take it out of the garbage, and you're going to eat it."
Mm,
So, and there was a lot of yelling, a lot of verbal abuse from my Turkish stepfather that we were just not used to. A lot of it we didn't understand. He would sometimes curse in Turkish, which we understood even less.
mm,
Um, and I have to say, looking back on what happened, the being taken away from our lives on Long Island in America, that was certainly a trauma. But I think the child rearing techniques of my stepfather was an even bigger trauma because no child should be treated like that with this horrible verbal abuse. Um, there was some physical abuse too, but I have to say, luckily, not very much. There were a lot of threats
mm,
of physical abuse. If you don't eat up your food, I'm going to hit you, and things like that. And also, uh, my stepfather was abusive towards my mom and physically abusive. And we witnessed that as children, and that is something a child should never be put through.
mhm,
For us, being torn away from one parent, we really clung to the one remaining parent we had, and then to see this power dynamic that our mother was under the influence of this stranger, our Turkish stepfather. That was very scary for us.
Yes.
That our mom was supposed to protect us, but she was under the influence of our stepfather that we didn't quite know or trust.
mm.
That that was pretty tough.
Yeah, of course. And she wasn't safe. She
She
wasn't
wasn't
always safe
safe.
with
And
him.
yeah,
Yeah.
and over the
Mm,
years, in the beginning, I felt a lot of empathy towards my mom. I felt I had suspected, along with my sister and brother, we suspected that I was actually our stepfather who pushed for the move to Turkey. And it wasn't until we were adults and we talked to him about it, and he said, "No, I really fought hard to come from Turkey to the States." And his wife wanted to go back to Turkey. He's like, I just got out of there. I don't want to go
Mhm.
back. So it was our mom. She was the one who wanted to go away as far as possible,
Mm.
and that just that seemed to her like a good opportunity. Yeah. I was what was I lost my point there. What was I heading towards?
You were
That yes, and yeah, so I was very empathetic towards my mom for many years, thinking that she was a victim in this whole thing. And then I went through a phase of being angry at her because she was my mom. She's supposed to protect me. And she claimed that she was taking us away from our violent dad, but that was not the case. She actually took us away from our quite peaceful dad into a violent situation.
Yes.
And how can she say that she's protecting us by putting us into a much more dangerous situation? That and also becoming a mom myself, and if anybody had threatened my kids, I'd be like a lioness
yeah.
Yes.
protecting. I would not let anybody touch my children or
Right.
verbally abuse them.
Right.
Abuse them. I would not tolerate that, and so for a while I was angry at my mom, and then came a phase where I thought, okay, she was a victim of domestic violence. She was not acting in an emotionally or mentally reliable way, or her brain didn't work in logical ways. She was in a constant state of fear. So again, I'm kind of in a more forgiving mindset
Yeah. Yeah.
towards
Nothing
my
is very straightforward. There's just it's so complicated.
yeah.
All these different emotions. And what is your relationship like now with your mom?
Um, Many people ask me if I've cut off contact with my mom, and I haven't. And all three of us, the siblings, still have contact with her. She still, for the most part, does not want to talk about what happened. She still sees herself as a victim
Mhm.
of our dad, that she was trying to get away, and she often goes into this victim mode, and how much she gave up of her life to protect us children. And so she repeats this so often that she's kind of built up her personality. She's built up her life around this narrative, which is quite sad. My dad has moved on. Of course, it still is a very big part of his life, but he has moved on and he's done other things with his life. Um, Actually, when I first got into contact with him after all these years, there was a little part of me that was almost a bit angry or disappointed. Like, how can my dad move on with his life without me?
Mhm.
But after I got over that, I was like, this is actually great. It's good that his life didn't come to a complete standstill. He did have phases of depression, um, very emotional, difficult times, and I'm very very happy that he had my stepmom to be at his side, and that she stood by his side and stuck with him through the difficult times. Yeah, and then he was able to move on, focus on other things. Now he's quite involved in charity work now that he's retired. Um, and yeah, that's amazing. But my mom is she's still stuck in this mindset, and she's not doing very well mentally, emotionally, and physically. I believe is because she's stuck in this spiral of victimhood thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a
Mm.
healthy place to be.
No.
Wow. And I've heard your story before, but it's been a long time, and I think that I've heard it in pieces, in
Mhm.
parts and pieces, and it's just such a powerful story, and you're such an inspiration to me, just the path that you've chosen in your life and the fact that we understand the name thing, we can laugh about it.
Yeah.
It's been painful, but we can laugh about the multiple names that we have,
Mhm.
and where we use the different names. We both have we use different names in different settings.
We still
Yeah.
still do to
Mhm,
this day. There
mhm,
are certain circles of people
mhm.
that know us by the various names.
Yeah, and to us, it makes complete sense, but to most people, it wouldn't. But this is how our lives shaped us,
Mhm.
and 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 so we didn't have to drop completely any of them, but but find peace with all of that,
Yeah.
and that's been a struggle and a journey. And we've both dealt with confusion at
Mhm.
times of trying to
Mhm.
understand exactly what happened,
Mhm.
and what do we feel and what do we
Mhm.
want and who are we, all of those things, each in our own ways. But it's been beautiful. It is beautiful to continue in this journey with you and see you
Mhm.
be, build this rich and full life through many trials and tribulations and many joys and so much beauty and uniqueness. It's just wonderful. And
Thank you.
and I think the message that we both have for would be abductors is don't do it, because the long-term ramifications, your children may, like we both did, go with it in the moment. Because we have to go with it. We adjust, we yeah, we do what we need to do. We love the parent that abducted us. We love them. We love both of our parents, but we certainly like the parent that abducted us is the one we cling to.
Yes.
And
For survival.
for survival. And we don't understand the complexities and nuances of everything that happened. And then when there's traumatic events, divorce, upset, anger, all of those things, how can a child, even if they're 13, like your brother was, how can we really make sense of it and make decisions, that will have long-term ramifications on everybody's lives? So for parents contemplating doing this, or who have done this, there are long-term ramifications that will boomerang on you. And like Linnea so poignantly said, to give a child the message that 50% of you, because we look in the mirror and we see both of our parents there. We
Mhm.
feel that we have the cultural identity, the history, family, all of that, to be essentially told that part of you is so bad that we have to run to the ends of the earth or say terrible things about that parent. It's it's what the undoing, I would say, for me, and I think you would agree with this too, the work that we have to do to sort of deal with that pain and that legacy is takes so much energy, and always will on some level. Um, so don't really, this is abduction, family abduction is violence, it's trauma, it's creating a lifetime of work that we all need to do, including the abducting parent. It creates this there's a before and after that is so huge and so life altering that it's I can't see very many situations where there's real justification for doing something like this. There's alternate stories, like you said.
Mhm.
There are alternate paths. There's recourse. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Let me add something to the name change topic. Um, so many times people have said that's really crazy. Have multiple names. Why and what do they mean, and in what context do you use them? And I too, for a while, thought this is really wacky. But then I came to the realization there are anyway, like some people who will call you something else. For
Yes.
example, they will call you mom. There are a circle of people who can call you mom, and that's okay in our culture. There are certain people who might call you by a special nickname, and it's just them. So once I realized that, I thought, okay, it's all right. I'm allowed. I'm allowed to have my different names,
Mhm.
and for different people to call me different names. But there still is confusion
Mhm.
amongst people. Because my younger siblings, they don't know which name to use with me sometimes. Um, and But what I have done is that I uh, both my older brother and my sister, they've gone back to their birth names. I decided to stay with the name that I took when I was in Sweden when I was 12, because for me that felt like, well, this is more the adult uh, uh, version of me. And then I decided I'm going to put all of my names on my passport. So I have four four names on my passport to reflect all the sides of me,
Mhm.
Yeah.
all the all
Yeah.
the parts of me. When people call me by my birth name, Annika, it does feel like they're talking to a child, and there is some disassociation there
Mhm.
happening. But it's healing too, in a way.
Mhm. I can so relate to that because Cecilia is the name I was given at birth, and it's very healing and wonderful for me when I'm in Norway to be called Cecilia or Sisi by my Norwegian family and some of my Norwegian friends. And I yeah, it feels also a little bit like it's really the child's my inner child's name in a
Mhm.
way, but it still feels like a part of me. I
Yeah.
can completely relate. So yeah. And you know, I ended up choosing two names. I took one that I was given at birth and one that I was given when I was abducted, and I put those on my passport. But now I'm thinking about maybe putting all four names. So it's Cecilia Rena Sarah Zissel. So I that's long, but I'm
Uh,
gonna contemplate that because that might feel more authentic. See? Like I'm 55 but still figuring it out and see what feels most authentic. But in my own time, there's no rush, but it's
mhm.
yeah. And I know for me it's been very important. People ask me, I don't know if they ask you this, do you feel more American? Do you feel more Norwegian? Do you feel more Jewish? Do you feel more like in for me and my identities? And I felt for a long time that I needed to choose in a way.
Mhm.
But then I thought, I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, which is the American part? And where's the Norwegian part? And where's the Jewish part? And it's like, wait, it's all of me. It's okay. I don't need to choose.
Mhm.
But and I'm whole and I'm not half anything. It was sort of
Yeah.
even that I understand that when people say half siblings or whatever. It's fine. I'm not upset with that. But for me, I'm not just half Norwegian, I'm Norwegian, and I'm not half Jewish, I'm Jewish, and I'm not half American, I'm American. So for me,
Mhm.
that's something I tell myself. Again, I don't get mad at people when they try to understand from a more of a biological or cultural perspective and try to, understand it. But it's been very important for me to look in the mirror and say, you're fully Norwegian and you're fully American and you're fully Jewish because those are my identities that mean that resonate for me.
Mhm.
And and the names as well. So that like coming to the place of wholeness, that's really and feeling safe with my story and who I am, that's been the struggle in so many ways. And
Yeah.
that's the journey, like moving more
Yeah.
towards that wholeness
Yeah.
and peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
actually have a cute little story about that because I have two sons by two different fathers. And when my younger son was in second grade, they were learning about family structures and different things. So the teacher was talking about blended families and said to my son, "Oh, you have a half brother." And he looked at her like she was crazy. No, he's a whole person.
That's so sweet, and from the mouths of babes, a second grader, like, that and he's so right. That's so
Yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful and sweet. That's
yes,
That
so
is.
sweet.
And it's so
yeah,
important for both parents to allow that. Allow allow that the layers of identity to exist.
this,
Oh,
yeah,
that's exactly that's it. That's
yeah,
it. That's it in a nutshell. That's the ideal.
yes,
That's what we seek
Mhm.
from parents to give us kids permission to do that.
yes, yeah,
Wow. Thank you so much,
yeah.
Linnea.
Thank you.
Such an
Yeah,
honor. I get
Yeah.
to have you right here in my
yeah,
house. It's amazing. Thank you, Abby.
yeah, I'm
Sending
sending
you
you
a
a
big
hug.
hug too. Yes, you
Hugs.
too. Thank you,
Thank you.
You
everybody.
know,
Thank you for having
Linnea, I met you when you came to the National Center. I was there too, but I mean, it was such a long time ago, and so much was going on that
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
expect you to remember.
You do
I'm
look familiar.
yeah, that was many years ago.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
were all three together in Alexandria, Virginia at NCMEC
yes,
headquarters 20-something years ago.
Mhm.
Love it.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wonderful. Thanks so
yeah.
much, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. We want to end with a poster of a missing child or some information for those of you listening and not watching. So this week we're highlighting a little girl named Blake Aubrey Moore Bermea. She has been missing since September 30th, 2025. This is very recent. Blake may be in the company of her mother, Danae Moore. Um, Blake went missing. Blake's adorable. Blake went missing from Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. She is 5 years old at this time. And if you have seen her or have any leads, you can call the Philadelphia Police Department, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at 215 418 0265. You can also call 1-800 The Lost, which is the number for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's their tip line. Please check out her picture and the picture of other children at missingkids.org. And yeah, keep in mind that children go missing every day, and they're not always safe because they're with a parent. That is a reality that many of you know. And yeah, we really appreciate it. Um, Thank you again for tuning in to this episode. Next week, we are going to have a French mom, Violaine, whose son was taken to Lebanon by his Lebanese father. And that is quite a journey that Violaine and her son have taken. It's a dramatic story of a mom who stopped at nothing and a child who experienced tremendous amount of trauma on multiple occasions and multiple abductions. Um, so we hope that you tune in next week. Thank you so much. Please get in touch. We are here for you. Our email address is, I still have to look it up. It's abduction.victimtosurvivor@gmail.com. We'll have it in the show notes. Please check out our Facebook page, which is the same name as our podcast. It's Abduction, Victim to Survivor. Stay in touch. If you are personally affected by family abduction or are an expert in the field, we would love to have you on. So please get in touch, and thank you so much, and take care. All the best. Bye-bye.